All right, welcome everyone. I hope you watch your Saturday morning cartoons because we are going to learn how to speak this morning. My name is Hyatt Suffering. I do all types of conventions and anime panels at those conventions. Currently, right now, I'm technically on hiatus, but I always like to support San Japan every year. That's one reason I am here. The main reason I'm on hiatus is this lovely woman over here, my wife. We just got married, so we're trying to enjoy the newlywed life, and sometimes that means I can do a few less cons than normal, but 2026 should be back to normal for me, hopefully, right? As long as work stabilizes. Speaking of what I do for work, the reason why I do this panel in the first place is because I am actually professionally a teacher, and not just any teacher, I am a speech teacher. So you guys are getting some free education from me today, and I'm doing my job at a convention. Because what else can I contribute besides what I'm good at? What's up?
Does this count for college credit?
Oh, I wish. I've been trying so hard with my school to get dual credit public speaking, so hopefully this will at least be partial credit whenever I give this panel from now on. So this panel is particularly constructed for our community, because we are all socially awkward weebs that fail to make friends at every one of these conventions we go to, and we need to learn how to do it better. So what better way to do that than learning how to talk to other people and saying like, I don't know what to say to this person, they're too cute, their cosplay's too good, I don't know what to do, right? So Speech 100 is for exactly that reason, to not only teach you how to speak in public, but how to teach you how to speak to people you actually want to speak to. So keep that in mind and take those lessons away. If you have any questions, right? Because I am a classroom teacher, feel free to just raise your hand or say something. I don't mind you kind of interrupting or like going with the flow of it. I'd rather answer those questions for you than letting them linger in your head and you forget what question you wanted to ask, and then all of a sudden it gets super awkward because then we get to the Q&A and you're like, oh, I forgot what I wanted to ask, right? So just feel free to chime in and do whatever you need to do during this panel, because the main objective is making sure y'all learn. That being said, everyone ready to become less awkward? Woo! Now, part of being a good public speaker is having command of the room, and you can see I can project my voice loud enough to where it doesn't really sound like I'm yelling, but you can still hear me from back there, right?
Yes.
So, pretty much throughout the entire panel, you're going to be hearing this voice. The mic? Nah, that's for cowards. I'm an expert. Let's go over some basics here. The first thing you have to do whenever you're speaking to someone is understand who your audience actually is. So whenever I'm at a convention, my demeanor is a little bit different than whenever I'm in front of my high schoolers and I'm in a classroom. Whenever I'm talking in a particular friend group at a convention, it's going to be different than when I'm at a room party. Specifically because the time, place, and occasion is super, super critical and important to understanding how you want to speak. If I really speak in this uptight, professional way when I'm at a room party, that probably won't go over all that well. I more or less want to talk more casually, bring my tone down a little bit, make sure that I'm talking in a conversational way and still appearing confident. But for here, when I'm presenting to you guys, my voice is a little bit more lifted, a little bit more even toned, and making sure I can stay a little bit more professional. That's part of audience adjustment. An underrated part of speaking is just making sure you can maintain proper grammar, and that's pretty difficult, especially if you aren't trained as a writer. Proper grammar is really underrated when it comes to good public speaking, specifically because when you have proper grammar and it transliterates directly, people understand that in their minds because they're hearing you the same way they read. So you automatically sound smarter than what you actually are. So avoiding those types of vocal tendencies that we have that are grammatically incorrect can help your public speaking out tremendously. The whole point of speaking to someone is to get ideas out of your head and not back into them. And that's really, really difficult with those of us that struggle with anxiety. Believe me, I know. I didn't start off this confident. I had to train myself, and I was just as socially awkward as any other weeb in here before I started on my journey to public speaking and debate. But now, I'm at this level. You can work yourself up to it, and this is a skill you can train and hone, and believe me when I say anyone is capable. The hardest part of this is feeling comfortable in your own skin. Easier said than done. This is a lifelong struggle for most of us. But when you are comfortable in your own skin, it really does show when you're speaking and allows you to do more with not only the words that you have, but what you want to convey to others. Unless you're a politician, you probably want to believe in what you're saying too, because people can tell when you're lying or telling the truth. So when you actually believe in what you're saying, it makes a world of difference to establish a good relationship with people. So just be honest with people. There's no reason to front or lie or do things like that. Even if you want to seem impressive, it's not the best way to get to know someone. What's up, man?
How does sarcasm play into that?
So if you can use sarcasm well, and your audience understands that same level of sarcasm, then they will be more receptive to it, and they'll automatically build a relationship with them. But let's say, for example, you're 2 IQ grades above your audience, and you make a sarcastic quip that doesn't register with anybody. All of a sudden, you lose that credibility because they don't register as sarcasm. So you want to be very measured with sarcasm, because when you're using sarcasm and it doesn't register, it can actually backfire on you a lot harder than if you establish that. So just use it sparingly, I would say, is my recommendation for whenever using with an audience. Oh, yeah.
So does your grammar, do you alter it at all, given that you're in a certain region, like say the South or Texas, given that we use y'all in certain terminology?
I think y'all is a proper term. We're y'all alternative down here, right? So I necessarily think that grammar rules don't necessarily differ that much between different variants of American English. It's a matter of how professional we sound with some of our intonations and our accents and stuff. And I went to environments doing this panel in Chicago, Atlanta, LA, New York, where I still sounded professional even though they could hear my Southern drawl. I don't think people care as much about the accent, especially as the world has gotten more globalized, as much as they care about, are you delivering something I can respect? And when you deliver something that someone respects, that builds up what's called rapport. This is the academic term for the relationship you have between you and your audience. Ultimately, rapport is about the credibility that you have. When you have that level of credibility with somebody, then all of a sudden you can sell them a lot more things. Part of the reason our lovely president has the fan base that he does is he has this immense credibility with his audience, and his base always supercharges itself whenever he says something. When you have that relationship with your audience, your speeches can be a lot more powerful, even if it feels like you're not saying a whole lot. Part of this is approachability and being down to earth in general, because when you are down to earth, then all of a sudden people feel like you're someone you can talk to, you're human. You don't ever appear above the audience. Part of the reason I'm not up on stage right now is specifically so you guys can see what I'm doing, how I'm gesturing certain things, but also understanding that I'm not above you guys. Ultimately, I'm speaking with you guys on the level. And when you're down to earth like that, people really appreciate that approach and are more receptive to whatever you're saying. Give them a reason to listen. This is on easy mode whenever you do a panel. So this panel room is going to be filled with different panel advice and how to do public speaking, like pretty much throughout the entire day from what we saw. And usually they give you a reason to listen just by nature of you walking into this panel and saying like, okay, what does this person have to say? But whenever you have to give like a presentation, for those of you maybe who work in the corporate world, giving them a reason to listen and making the speech a little bit interesting will often be a lot more fun than just being this dry, drab sort of routine that you have to go through. Because the last thing someone wants to hear whenever you're public speaking is it feeling like the same song and dance they've always done. This means you have to say something interesting. I told you at the beginning of the panel why I give this panel in the first place. I feel it's super necessary for us to be able to talk to each other, socialize, and make friends at these types of conventions. As well as I think it's super important that us weebs are weirdos. We have a lot of different ideas, and I think we have a lot more to contribute to society than we give ourselves credit for. Because believe me, when I was alone, I took more in this community than I could ever imagine, because of the fact that I found kinship in this community in the first place, because of how accepting and how nurturing we are of other people. And if we have those values in here, well, some of those values need to come out to the rest of the world, for sure. when you put meaning into your words, that also means you're layering your words in a way where people can extract different things from what you're saying. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to speak in vague terms. That means people can kind of relate it to themselves instead of just having to be like, this is a specific point of advice that I'm giving you, or this is a specific thing that I'm doing. So always try to be more intentional with your statements and really make sure that every meaning of your statements really contributes to what you're saying, especially if you have set lines when you're speaking. The hardest skill that you will always have in public speaking is being able to play off your audience. You'll probably watch plenty of comedians that still struggle with this today, and this is one of the hardest skills that you have. Like I mentioned, command of the room is first and foremost. This is something that within my background as a teacher, as well as my general background in public speaking, if I don't have command of the room, I'm not doing it. That's the first thing that you have to establish, and it's hard to get respect from people unless you establish all those kind of basics, because if I'm underconfident and slouching down like this and you can barely hear me, I don't have command of the room at that point. Instead, it's broadly that I can approach everybody and be like, hey, so what do you think about this? And they feel like, oh, I can actively contribute. You want to determine how much interaction you want. At the beginning of this panel, it's more me yapping. And then towards the end of this panel, it's more you guys participating and playing off of whatever prompts that I give you guys. And we're going to mention that a little bit later. You want to answer questions so they don't linger. I also mentioned this at the beginning of the panel. How many times have you been to a panel where you had a question, forgot the question, because they're too nervous to actually do that? And I understand a lot of panels and panelists necessarily are kind of nervous when being interrupted like that. They want to follow that script and that routine. But believe me, you're going to be a lot more effective when you answer questions as they come, and your audience is going to be a lot more receptive to it. Speaking of which,
how much would you say of your dialogue is pre-rehearsed versus kind of improv on the spot?
so to adjust to my audience and to convey this panel a little bit more naturally, I would say I have a general outline. So about 30% of what I'm saying is sort of preset. 70% I'm kind of filling in based on the eyes that I see and the reactions that I'm getting. We're going to talk about how you can have that playing off of the audience in a strategy that doesn't make you feel anxious, right? Because that is the most difficult thing to do when you actively are thinking about something, but you can't register it, you're just, instead of just making adjustments. You good? So when you gauge the crowd and when you adapt to the crowd, it's really about, okay, what are some things that I can do to make sure my crowd is getting everything that I have to offer and that message is truly registering. So there are three types of communication styles that really help you with this type of adjustment. The first is called verbal communication. Your fundamental aspect of verbal communication is not just being able to say words for things, but also to break down the complex ideas. A lot of this panel so far, I've put forward very simple words to explain very complex communicative concepts on the academic level. Because I'm certified to teach college speech, but I didn't use all the academic terms here, because that's not approachable. So your ability to break down complex terms into simple terms really makes your message more approachable, and your ability to explain things well. The strategies I have for this, well, the first thing is whenever I see lost eyes in the crowd, I take a step back. Like I physically take a step back and make sure I evaluate, okay, where do I need to slow down? Where are people confused? Let me make sure I have a good grasp on what people are doing.
Your lost eyes.
Lost eyes is just like, oh, they're contemplating it, they're thinking about something, they're not really engaged with the speech, or sometimes it's just like, this person's saying something super overwhelming and their eyes are darting around. So it's a nonverbal trick that you have to read for, and unless you're professionally trained in speech, it's really hard to tell those signs at first, but subconsciously you'll sort of know them. Whenever you lose someone in a conversation, it'll naturally show on their face.
So I got a question. How do you divert people's eyes away from these monstrosities?
So, I happen to be one of the more lax teachers, right? In the sense that my strategy in the classroom has always been, oh, you can be on your phone. You're gonna fail this test in 2 weeks though. Because that's the main thing that teachers use for grades in the first place is they evaluate how well you're learning. And if you're really tuning me out, you're not interpreting anything. The teachers that can get away with that, they put too much material in front of them and they don't put enough in the classroom, I find. But also in the fact that I know phones are going to happen. We live in a digital age, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't guilty of playing Pokemon Go throughout an entire panel, right? Just because I wanted to support the person, but I was like, well, they're not really saying much. What's up?
What year do you teach?
I teach high school mainly, so speech and debate, like the main circuit is in high school. So 9 through 12. This year, they gave me freshman English, so 9th graders. But I taught everything between 9th and 12th grade. I went as young as 7th grade one year. She wasn't too happy about that because dealing with middle schoolers is a whole nother stress. But words ultimately show your personality, right? I skipped one. My bad. Okay. When you're saying bored eyes in the crowd. Oh, before that, let's go.
What's been the vibe change like pre-COVID versus post-COVID students, if you've seen both?
So the biggest thing that we feel as teachers is that learning loss that happened when they were stuck in front of a screen and none of the older teachers knew what they were doing. In fact, the campus that I was at during COVID, I basically had to train my entire staff, and that was my first year at the campus, on being able to do Zoom call lessons or Microsoft Teams lessons. So it was a challenge because it feels like kids that are now coming into 9th grade have the maturity of 7th graders. And it's rough at times. That being said, if you can be a positive influence in their life, it makes a world of difference. But if you're just going to do business as usual, a lot of teachers aren't thriving. I would say the biggest reason why teachers are quitting right now is because they want to clock in and do the job rather than really devote themselves to it. And teaching really requires a level of commitment that's unfair to how much they get paid. But so I think as long as you have that level of commitment, then you'll stay the course. But teaching used to be a lot less demanding when there was a certain level of expectation in the classroom, you know? You good? Oh, you're starting? Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So when you see bored eyes in the crowd, because there's an opposite of this. When you see bored eyes in the crowd, you actually want to take a step forward and start accelerating your pace a little bit to make sure people are registering fast enough to where you're keeping their interest. I can actually speak out to 380 words per minute because I used to prepare professional debate. I don't do that during a panel because how is that good communication at all, right? Because accelerating pace to that level is just like, how much do we really want to push things forward? But oftentimes people will get bored of the message. Sometimes in this panel, I've gotten a field of graduate school communicators. I was just like, okay, we're gonna blitz through this, and I wanna see what y'all can do, right? What's up?
So how do you deal with the fact that you might have like larger ends of the spectrums when speaking to groups and stuff like that? And like trying to get the vibe for like one side or the other?
I would say there's a few phrases that describe our community. I would say one of the biggest phrases that describe our community is "rism with a tism." Because I don't know why so many of us are on the spectrum. Maybe just because anime is unhinged. But I feel like whenever we talk about just the different variants of level that's going to be, you always sort of want to meet in the middle. Anytime you can have those sort of clarifying comments that you can make that really help a lost eye or two, you want to be able to do that. But the best way to approach whenever you're to a general audience and you don't have any learning outcomes that you have to meet as a teacher is to meet in the middle. Wherever the middle of your audience is, wherever you keep most of them engaged, that's the best place you can be. If you're a classroom teacher, if any of you want to be a teacher, that's not necessarily how you do things because you have to make sure everyone in your class is involved. So you have to, what we call, differentiate instruction to a level where the lowest person in your student and the highest student are both on the same page, which is a challenge in and of itself. The words you ultimately convey your personality. And your personality being shown through your words can show how smart you are, how nerdy you are, how awkward you are, how difficult you can be, how stubborn you are with certain ideas, how approachable you are. A lot of that plays into diction. So how you naturally speak and training yourself to speak in a way that you are also proud of is something that can help your public speaking in general. you want to avoid vocal fillers unless they serve a purpose. What do I mean by that? If you've really been paying attention to how I've been speaking and what I've been saying, you'll notice I wasn't devoid of vocal fillers at all. I said a couple times. I said like a couple times. The reason why I did that is if I just totally went on point, which I started off this panel going totally on point, I lose so many eyes in the crowd because they're gonna be like, I'm never gonna get to his level, so why should I even listen? It's better that I talk in my normal voice, and when I say normal voice, the level of vocal fillers I would normally have in a conversation, rather than trying to go super professional with it, because it makes me more approachable. So you can actually use vocal fillers strategically. And some of these vocal fillers don't have to just be in English. Are two we use a lot. Echo, if you've noticed that in any of your favorite anime, is something that a Japanese character will often use. And this is one reason why the MC can't get the girl, because they're so uncertain about everything. And every other word is echo. But yeah. So for verbal communication, I'm going to give you two key examples here. The first is the initial speech from Code Geass by Emperor Charles. Now, as Americans, everything about this speech should offend our sensibilities. But because of the command of words that he used, we're actually left somewhat convinced by it, because we're not convinced Lelouch is the good guy yet. You can debate whether or not Lelouch is even the good guy in the series in general. But I would say the power of Emperor Charles' speech really gives us an indication that if you have good verbal command of language, then you can convey any message and really vibe with an audience.
The soldiers shall not prosper with power royalty. All traditions they will
新生ブリタニア帝国第98代唯一皇帝陛下よりお言葉人は平等ではない。生まれつき足の速い者、美しい者、親が貧しい者、病弱な体を持つ者、生まれも育ちも才能も人間は皆違っておるのだ。そう、人は差別されるためにある。だからこそ人は争い、競い合い、そこに進歩が生まれる。不平等は悪ではない。平等こそが悪なのだ。権利を平等にした EU はどうだ。人気取りの祝儀政治に出しておる。富を平等にした中華連邦は怠け者ばかりだが、我がブリタニアはそうではない。争い競い、常に進化を続けておる。
進化、いい言葉だ。
ブリタニアだけが前未来へと進んでいるのだ。我が息子クロビスの死もブリタニアが進化を続けているという証。戦うのだ。競い奪い獲得し支配しろ。その果てに未来がある。オーラハイレブリタニア。
ルルーシュの敵か。
Man, when you're able to make a speech and outright say all men are not created equal after your son has died, that takes a cold-hearted type of person to do. And that coldness is really what makes him an effective enemy in Code Geass. But also when you think about the way in which he was composing sentences and how he was forming those thoughts, he didn't really give you time to breathe or time to think. Instead, you were kind of embellishing it and being like, maybe I'm a fascist. Let's go to the next clip. So, Joey, our lovely anime man, has definitely a good verbal command of the way he says things. If you follow the podcast, you'll understand that among the three boys, he is definitely the one that has his speaking the tightest, in spite of the fact that Connor's a voice actor. This is just a good example that I use as a fun example that he doesn't get this from nowhere, that practice probably makes perfect.
Oh, what is it?
Say a tongue twister.
Say the Monogatari one.
猫僕が今から言う文章を復唱しろ斜め77度の並びで泣く泣くいななく7半7台難なく並べて長々め
斜め77度の並びで脈々いななく7半7台難なく並べてにゃがにゃがめ
What the one in
斜め
Monogatari?
77度の並びで泣く泣くいななく7半7台難なく並べて長々め。
Wow, how does he know that? How do you know that off by heart?
I thought we were gonna have to look it up, but
Yeah.
you knew it off by heart. Okay.
What the
I
fuck?
feel bad now. I think you underestimate how much of a Monogatari fan I am.
He's literally been waiting. He's been waiting like
I've been
years
waiting.
for
I was like, finally, my time has come.
A few moments later.
Say like all the Neko version. Oh yeah.
Is it an echo version?
Yeah.
God.
にゃにゃみ77度の並びでにゃくにゃくにゃなくにゃなはにゃらだいにゃんにゃく並べてにゃがにゃがめ。Not a question, but could you try to do the tongue twister that Black Honeycolor did in Monogatari? You're talking about the 斜め77度の並びで泣く泣くいななく7半7台難なく並べて長々め。That's the Araragi version. And then Black Honeycolor version is all the nas turn into nya. So it's にゃにゃみ77度の並びでにゃくにゃくいななくにゃなはにゃらだいにゃんにゃく並べてにゃがにゃがめ。It's honestly not too difficult. I like the one in the Monogatari series. In Neko Monogatari Kuro. 斜め77度の並びで泣く泣くいななく7半7台難なく並べて長々め。And then he makes Hanekawa, who's a cat, say it, and all of her nas turn to nya. So it becomes にゃにゃみ77度の並びでにゃくにゃくいななくにゃなはにゃらだいにゃんにゃく並べてにゃがにゃがめ。And I love Monogatari!
Can you say... Also, can you say where the sentence is from? Yes, I can tell you the sentence is from the Monogatari series, and I've never actually attempted to say it. This is a Japanese tongue twister, by the way. Alright, here we go. 斜め77度の並びで泣く泣くいななく7半7台難なく並べてな... Fuck. 斜め77度の並びで泣く泣くいななく7半7台難なく並べて長々め. Second try, bitches!
So, if this is any indication of how much we aged back Joey in that clip, the last time that first clip, when he posted that, I was a ranger at San Japan. So, like, that's how long ago we're talking about. But all of this practice and the love and dedication for it is really what makes it happen. But there's probably a more essential part of communication that we're not really mentioning or going over yet. Because it's not just about verbal communication. It's about nonverbal communication, how you say it. In fact, most academic studies for communication show that it doesn't really matter what you say as much as it says how you're saying it non-verbally. How you present yourself is as important, if not more so, than what you're saying. The reason for this is oftentimes our minds register more so how something is being conveyed before we interpret language. So our subconscious is actually going to register when we look at something, and when we hear something, it takes a split second for our minds to actually interpret that thing. So nonverbal communication is actually a majority of where we pick up our communicative language. Body language is a big thing here. You guys haven't noticed I've been sort of strolling around casually in front of the stage here, and I've been gesturing within this frame. The minute I start to gesture outside here, it gets super distracting and annoying. Like I look like one of those inflatable balloons that's at a car dealership. So you want to stay at a certain point, but you also want to be confident. This means having your back relaxed, having your posture straight, and speaking out rather than down here. Because when I speak down here, yeah, you can hear me, but do I look confident at all? Because I'm not doing anything that's communicative. Part of this is eye contact. So when you're at level with the audience, then you make eye contact with everyone. And in spite of the fact that there's roughly about 70, 75 people here right now, I probably made eye contact, at least in passing, with every single person in here. Because when you can maintain that level of eye contact, people feel heard and people feel seen, and subconsciously, that makes for effective communication when people feel like they're part of the conversation. I already talked about gesturing a little bit, but an important thing you want to do with gesturing is making sure that whenever you gesture, it's going to be in a solid way where as long as you're saying something, you can kind of say anything. And this is one reason why sign language speakers are so effective at what they do, because they know exactly where deaf people are looking for. So you can gesture almost anything that you want to, and you can slip in anything and sort of not even realize if you're speaking naturally, right?
What's your favorite gesture to use?
My favorite gesture to use. This is part of my jaded high school and dealing with teenager things, but I'm like, really, dude? Really? Like, that's what we're doing today? Come on. So I think that's just my high school teacher brain is like, that is my go-to gesture for like everything. There's a more advanced technique called platform movement that we use in competitive speech to where you involve yourself in the audience as much as you've built up rapport with them. So at the beginning of the speech, you'll start off from as far back from the audience as possible. And as you go closer in the speech, you'll kind of move closer to the audience as you build up more of a rapport with them. And by the end of your speech, you're supposed to be sort of standing dead center in front of them and kind of speaking with them rather than at them. So platform movement is something important to keep in mind, but also keeping yourself physically organized can be just as important, especially for a short speech without a podium. With the podium, the speaking changes a little bit, but it's still important you remain verbally organized, and that'll come through in your nonverbal speech as well. The best example I can think of this in anime is Reagan's speech from these initial episodes in Mob Psycho 100. Because if you know anything about Reagan, he's not the most powerful character in the series. But his use of language is often what makes him an intimidating foe. This is one example of it.
It's like you're a little kid with a knife or something. I can't bear to watch.
Who do you think you are?
What's with all that stuff on your forehead?
What? That's, it's nothing. You wouldn't get it.
And what's with these goofy things that look like shoulder pads?
Well, those are there to guard my shoulders.
Yeah, they're fashion accessories. They don't serve any real purpose. You guys just don't get it. No matter what kind of special powers you may have, you're still only human, no more and no less. It's the same for everybody. But somehow you've all forgotten that. You're so addicted to your special powers you've developed tunnel vision. You want world domination, but you haven't seen the world. No one's gonna follow you knowing that. Don't make me laugh. First, get rid of those ridiculous shoulder pads and grow up. You too. You just want to escape from society, right? If you hope to make it big, you have to live in reality. Consider that the starting point.
You're telling us to return to being commoners?
What? No way! You're not getting it! Why don't you understand this? Think about who the hell you are for a second! You've always been a commoner! A cog in the population!
But Claw only allows the elite espers to...
Look, I'm a commoner! And I'm much more powerful than any of you will ever be! So tell me, what the hell does that make you?
He dragged them out of their delusions and back into reality, shattering their dreams and putting them in their place. Your master's amazing! Yep.
The power of wasting someone with words alone is something that only the highest level of competitive debaters feel. But it's something that you can do when you are an effective nonverbal communicator specifically. Because whenever you have that kind of perfect Zen level of confidence, no one questions you anymore. And you find out being like, this is exactly how I expected it to go. So having that control is definitely a refined skill. Reagan is definitely a master of that. But I kind of want to give an example of someone who isn't as much of a master of it. And part of it I want to give that example is because she's my waifu and has been since 2008. Don't at me, bro. Like, Haruhi's speech from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya really gives a jarring disposition between this and the rest of the series. Because the series is about wild antics and fun and a whole bunch of other random stuff that happens. But when she gives this speech, she gives a true insight into who she is. And through this speech, she also not only gives the value to speaking in general, but unlike Reagan, shows that stillness can speak just as loudly as being as animated.
Ore, もう帰っていいか?
あんたさ、自分がこの地球でどれほどちっぽけな存在なのか自覚したことある？
何を言い出すんだ。
私はある。忘れもしない。小学生の6年生の時、家族みんなで野球を見に行ったのよ。球場まで。私は野球なんか興味なかったけど、ついて驚いた。見渡す限り人だらけなのよ。野球場の向こうにいる米粒みたいな人間がびっしりうごめいてるの。日本の人間が残らずこの空間に集まっているんじゃないかと思った。でね、親父に聞いてみたのよ。ここは一体どれだけの人がいるんだって。満員だから5万人くらいだろうって親父は答えた。試合が終わって駅まで行く道にも人が溢れていたわ。それを見て私は愕然としたの。こんなにいっぱいの人間がいるように見えて、実はこんなの日本全体で言えばほんの一部に過ぎないんだって。家に帰って電卓で計算してみたの。日本の人口が1億数千万ってのは社会の時間に習っていたから、それを5万で割ってみると、たった2000分の1。私はまた愕然とした。私なんてあの球場にいた人混みの中のたった一人でしかなくて、あれだけたくさんに思えた球場の人たちも実は一つかみでしかないんだってね。それまで私は自分がどこか特別な人間のように思ってた。家族といるのも楽しかったし、何よりも自分の通う学校の自分のクラスは世界のどこよりも面白い人間が集まってると思ってたのよ。でもそうじゃないんだってその時気づいた。私が世界で一番楽しいと思っているクラスの出来事も、こんなの日本のどの学校でもありふれたものでしかないんだ。日本全国の全ての人間から見たら普通の出来事でしかない。そう気づいた時、私は急に私の周りの世界が色あせたみたいに感じた。夜歯を磨いて寝るのも、朝起きて朝ごはんを食べるのも、どこにでもあるみんながみんなやってる普通の日常なんだと思うと、途端に何もかもがつまらなくなった。そして世の中にこれだけの人がいたら、その中にはちっとも普通じゃなく面白い人生を送ってる人もいるんだ、そうに違いないと思ったの。それが私じゃないのはなぜ？小学校を卒業するまで私はずっとそんなことを考えてた。考えてたら思いついたわ。面白いことは待っててもやってこないんだってね。中学に入ったら私は自分を変えてやろうと思った。待ってるだけの女じゃないことを世界に訴えようと思ったの。実際私なりにそうしたつもり。でも結局は何もなし。そうやって私はいつの間にか高校生になってた。少しは何かが変わると思ってた。
電車のおかげで俺はここで突っ込むべきなのか、何か哲学的な引用でもしてごまかした方がいいのか考える時間を得た。そうか、こんなことくらいしか言えない自分がちょっと憂鬱だ。
Is that the thing? So when you can stun Keelan of all people like that, if you know anything about Haruhi, you've said something truly deep and meaningful. And part of the reason that hit so hard is specifically because of how she used stillness there. Because it's not just about how crazy and how over the top you are and then you're just doing all these motions to convey your message. It can also be if you're still and you're calm, it can show a level of contrast that didn't normally exist. But there's one more element of communication that I didn't really go over because it's a little bit tougher to explain. This is what we call paraverbal communication. It's your intangibles, it's your it factor, it's your swag, it's your riz, it's your aura, like it's all of that stuff. It's what you place on exactly what type of energy you bring out into the world. Now there is a way to actually control this to where you can aura farm without having to train yourself. The tone set and the mood you create is exactly how you control your level of audience and the way in which you intonate and give things out. This could be strategic pauses, this could be in the forms of emphasizing certain things, but this could also be in the form of using your verbal cadence patterns in a way that make yourself sound more interesting. You notice some people, especially if they have a pre-rehearsed sort of script that they follow with small talk, they'll have the same sing-songy pattern in their voice where it feels like they're just following and going through the motions. and you can't tell what irritates them about you, but it irritates that because it feels like they're not really in the conversation, even though they're talking to you, it's because their vocal inflections aren't really changing from sentence to sentence. It's because their vocal inflections really feel like they follow a certain sing-songy rhyme, as if they're just doing the same song and dance for you. When you can put your voice down really low like this, or put your voice really high up like this at a moment's notice, and really emphasize different ideas, you can actually convey intrigue and interest because you're doing things that throws their subconscious off and they wouldn't necessarily expect. This allows you to emphasize what actually matters. And this allows you to give poignancy to the statements that you really, really want to hit home. When you give a hot take, you get more endearment for that hot take, rather than you saying that hot take and being like, ooh, I don't want to associate with that person. And that's one reason why we associate certain things in society with people that are successful at being popular versus people who are not. I wish I'd known these tricks when I was trying to be popular. You can say almost anything as long as it's said well. And I'm going to give you the most ridiculous example from the swag master himself. Anyone seen Gintama in here? We know that who invented aura farming was Gintoki, not this Gen Alpha, Gen Z stuff, right? This was the original man that did it. This is just one of the clips he did it with, and he did it in the most ridiculous way possible, and I love it.
いいか、昼間にいちご牛乳を飲みすぎて夜中にトイレに行きたくなったとしよう。しかし布団の外は寒い。布団から出たくない。しかし尿意は強まる一方だ。王道、反問、葛藤。一大決心をしてトイレに行く。電気の前に立つ。振り出す。発射。この解放感。このために生きてきたとさえ思える瞬間だ。だがそこで気づく。俺がいるのはトイレじゃない布団の中だ。太ももに広がる生温かい感触。だが止まらない。止められない。そういうもんなんだよ、何事も。それが真のいちご牛乳なんだ。分かったか。いちご牛乳。そうか。いちご牛乳。いちご牛乳。いちご牛乳。いちご牛乳。いちご牛乳。いちご牛乳。いちご牛乳。
So the first time I gave this panel, I played this clip. I have a funny story. I went over to somebody's house, right? And they had a poster of Gintoki, and in Sharpie it was written, "Give into the strawberry milky," like right over their bed. And I was sitting here going like, why did you do this? I'd be like, because you said it in your panel, dude. Like, I have to do it. Like, and I was like, oh my God. But that just shows you that if you got the swag to pull it off, you can literally talk about pissing yourself and people think you're cool, right? Like, that is what just happened. So really this paraverbal communication is not about, oh, you're just an interesting person and you're flexing all your wealth on social media. No, it's just about, are you an interesting person? And if you're interesting enough, people will like it. But there's also a certain aspect of paraverbal communication that comes on with your rapport, your credibility, and the wisdom that you have with your audience. And whenever Master Makarov speaks in Fairy Tale, you'll notice that that picks up on a lot. From one of the earlier seasons, this is one of my favorite lessons. Not because he says anything super meaningful, but because of how he says it, and the manner in which he says it always gives you more than the words he's actually saying, which is why you're going to have it captioned on the screen for you in the short.
Nothing's going to change. You cannot change the fact that those who are weak will forever remain weak. Now, maybe it's just me, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, we humans are weak creatures by nature. Our insecurities are the reason that guilds even exist. And they're why we have friends. When we're surrounded with allies, it's easier to stay positive about the future. Think of it this way. If we're clumsy, then we may stumble and bump into things. But as long as we have faith in our future, we continue marching forward. Our inner strength emerges on its own. But we have to choose that path and pledge to live our lives to the fullest.
Can anyone tell me what that speech actually meant? People just be people, and that's literally what he said. But he said it in such a composed and well-formed way that it felt like the lesson was deeper than that. So, there's one last part of communication I'd like to mention, because this is the part that I think you can have most valuable in your daily lives. And how can this affect your interpersonal relationships specifically? One, when you learn your boundaries with your audience, you also learn your boundaries with other people. So this community feels a lot less creepy when we actually know our boundaries with others, right? But also, when it comes to having boundaries, you're also mindful of what people are comfortable and what they're not comfortable with. Before they even tell you, hey, this feels a little weird or awkward, you're able to pick up on it and be like, okay, let me back off, let me slow down the conversation a little bit. Because of being able to read these particular things in public speaking is doing that on hard mode versus doing it one-on-one is kind of your easy mode. So if you practice on that public speaking, then all of a sudden you'll find that your interpersonal relationships come a lot easier because now you're staying at a comfort level that people want you to get. You also have good intentions when it comes to this. What do I mean by good intentions? Well, that means that you're putting thought into your interactions and it really feels like you're not the same with any two people. You have a different relationship with every single person that you have. When you're able to do that, then people value you for their unique connection to you in the first place. That requires to be present and not on your phone or not on any other electronic device. And unfortunately, the way we bond nowadays is usually meeting someone online and bonding over a video game. So it makes it really, really difficult to establish this presence. But that's why these conventions are so valuable, because we use these as meeting grounds. And we need to kind of bring that back. At least, that's my thing. The hardest part of this is you also have to be vulnerable, right? And being vulnerable means you're willing to put yourself out there and not putting up a shield and being like, I'm going to act like this way. Because when you act the same way with everyone else, it comes off as you're putting on a mask. And when you put on that mask, well, if you studied anything about Japanese culture, you'll understand that putting on a social mask isn't helpful to anyone. It lowers birth rates, it prevents close friendships from being formed. It does a whole bunch of things to society that you don't want to happen. Now, the fun part of the panel. So I'm going to give you a few prompts, and whoever wants to come up and take a stab at it, you can use the mic or you can try to speak like I am. So tell me on one of the four things. Tell me your favorite anime and why. Talk about why any character you're choosing is great, how weebs actually make great friends or partners, or don't. I've had plenty of people defend that they don't. And that cosplaying is art too. Would anyone like to try? Come on up, man. Give him a round of applause. Takes a lot of courage to do that.
Alright, so my favorite anime is called Oregairu, or My Teen Romantic Comedy. Why it's my favorite? It's a character study. Not too many character studies, just kind of slop romances out there. I'm more interested in what the person is thinking and how they interact with their environment. And I used to relate to the first season of Hachiman, kind of a loner, off to the side type of thing. And then
you only have to do one. It's okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
That was absolutely excellent. But I think the main thing is you're struggling to get to your next verbal thought. So the biggest thing that you can do to help improve kind of your speaking in that way is I've gotten sort of natural in pacing around like this. If you can start off with your speaking by just being planted and feeling like you're stable, it'll get you your next thought a little bit faster. But part of the reason I clapped in the first place is because I'm constantly on the fence between whether Oregairu or Kaguya is like my favorite romance anime of all time, right? Because they're just the two goated ones, and I can't decide, do I want ridiculous mind game comedy, or do I want serious high school romance, right? I don't know which one I like the more, but Hachiman is the goat. I agree. Come on up.
Can we do more than one person?
Yeah.
Let's go.
No, I'm clumsy. It's easier to walk where there's nothing there, Anthony. So, I'm gonna go over how weebs actually make great friends / partners. And this is my friend. His name is Cube. And I actually met him online a really long time ago, and then I started streaming. And I had a fun time streaming, and then all of my friends back there, we call ourselves the Butter Toast Squad. And we just literally sit online for hours and just talk to each other and everything. And everybody back there, besides the two others in the back that just joined the squad actually this week, they were in my wedding, and me and my husband got married in November. And I really do not know what I would do without all of them. I was really awkward and kind of just kept to myself in my own house. And they really got me out and helped me, you know, just get out there and do what I wanted to do and just be me. And I couldn't be me for the longest time. I thought everybody just wanted to just rain on my parade and just didn't want me to be who I was. And I was the weird person in my entire group. So I couldn't be in this world without them. So, yeah. Thank you guys. And that's why we make best partners and friends and everything, because they accept you for you and not anything else. Yeah. You want to say anything?
For me, it was based. I don't need one.
What?
It's okay, guys have that natural booming voice.
Screw you!
Usually not. Usually not. But for me, it was more like they really just adopted me. It was like, oh, okay, you have the shield in front of you. No, you come here. And then, well, ever since I've been great friends, always talking a lot. And they basically took down the wall for me. And just for the first point, favorite anime, Emeralds of Shadow. And Sid Kageno.
I too love being a noob.
That is the best quote he has. I am Atomic Golden. Or season 1, the ending, who's running? And he's just chaotic. I love the chaoticness. So, yeah. That's why I do.
Thank you guys!
So one thing that teaches you is you don't have to be perfectly solid in public speaking, but if you're speaking from the heart, how much does that hit, right? Because my wife will tell you this more than anyone else, right? Every single person in my family and my side was so impressed with my found family, which were all my groomsmen, and how much they came through for us during our wedding too. So when she said that, like super related and super hit with that. Come on up.
Hey, y'all, Century fan crowd. So I'm gonna talk on points 1, 2, and 3, and they're kind of gonna segue into one another. So my favorite anime of all time is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's completely nonsensical. The bad guys are winning until they're not, pretty much every episode. Which segueing into my favorite character, which makes it great, is Jotaro, like the main guy. As the series progresses, you find out he's kind of a deadbeat dad, which is something I've always strived to become. And that kind of segues into, you know, my wife and I recently had a child. So every day it's a struggle, you know, being present's really difficult. But, you know, day by day it gets greater and better. And I think she's an amazing partner because, you know, as we love to like kind of like hyperfixate on things and just yap about them. And nothing's better than like a back and forth like yap fest. Like my wife and I will yap for like 30 minutes at a time of like, oh my gosh, here, let me tell you about my favorite like rant for the like 50th time. And then she'll go and tell me about her favorite rant for like the 30th time. And it's this amazing back and forth. We just never get tired of each other. And that's it. As opposed to several rounds of applause, we'll just do one clap on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
One clap rule, I love it. This is something we have in award ceremonies too. So one thing you notice about his speaking style is he was really, really putting that forward and making sure that he could convey that message in a way that he could really shout out his wife, he could really talk about his personal life and everything was like that. One thing I would recommend for you is before you speak, just relax your shoulders a little bit, take a deep breath, and it'll feel a lot more natural, right? Because I knew what you were saying was meaningful, but sometimes it feels like you were stumbling over it a little bit, because I knew the deadbeat dad thing was a joke. It didn't quite come off, right? But I get that you're a responsible spouse, because she looks happy. So, all right, come on up.
It's nice to have something in your hands. My favorite anime is Durara, but it's not what I want to talk about. Have any of you seen The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You? Yeah, you get it, you get it, you get it.
I run a polyamory panel too, guys.
Do you talk about this and that?
Yes.
Oh, when is it?
It is not at this convention, sadly.
I totally would go. But I'm a bit of a hopeless romantic. I'm single and I'm looking for love. And this show kind of fills a sort of need for me because I don't know how many of us are also autistic here, but it's very easy to put on a mask, and it feels like everyone's getting their masks sort of ripped off in that show because everyone's very authentic, everyone's very genuine and very loved, and I really appreciate that. It's also very funny and absurd and has like a hint of a lot of degeneracy in it, and that's fun to me. I just think it's really effective at being a rom-com because there's a lot of romance, there's a lot of comedy. I don't have a good ending to this. I just like this show a whole lot, and I need to tell other people about it, or else I will explode. So,
people in 100 Girlfriends have to be so authentic that if they're not authentic, they literally die.
That's true. That's true. I would give it a recommendation, even if it sounds trashy. It is, but it's really good. I promise you. Thank you.
If you guys want to stick around for when I actually wrap up my panel, you will see that my background is from Girlfriend. So yes, someone talking about a polyamory anime is good. Come on up.
Eeyore.
Huh? Yeah.
Alright. Alright then. No. The main thing I would talk about is how cosplaying is an art, because I know this isn't the greatest one. It's basically just an outfit I threw together. Let's call it that. But I know the hours and the effort that takes in place, because I wanted to do a Von Lycon cosplay, but as I just could not get the foam together in time, so that is a really big tragedy. But I recognize the art. I recognize the effort that all of you put into your wigs and to the little details with all the little buttons, all the chains, everything. And I just wanted to congratulate all of you on that.
Shout out to the cosplayers, man. Y'all are goated. Y'all make this convention what it is. Y'all make every convention what it is. Because if we couldn't look at y'all, trust me, we would be bored out of our minds. Thank you, man. Let's say these questions were a little too simple for you. I have a challenge mode. How often should we shower? If you're interested in someone, when is the right time to make a move? Which recently aired or currently airing anime defines the community right now? And finally, what makes anime superior to other forms of storytelling? Anyone want to take a stab at these questions? Come on up.
First question, how often should we shower? The simple answer is 2 seconds. If you smell shower, it's general every day. If you work outside, it's Texas, it's hot, we're sweating, it stinks. Number 2 though, if you're interested in someone, when is it appropriate to make a move? Opinionated, like you were talking about in your speech, it's like public speaking, but just one-on-one. You're looking at someone and you're thinking, what are they thinking? What are they asking? And then nonverbal communication is sometimes bigger than verbal communication because it's really, really awkward to ask someone, oh, are you into me? Are you is this an appropriate thing to do and stuff? But all in all, that's kind of my position on that is if you're interested in someone, the biggest thing you can do in that to figure out what move you need to make is just learn to read people and learn to connect with them on a basis that feels more personal than maybe some people are comfortable with being sometimes, like with themselves and stuff. All right.
That was fantastic, mainly because you didn't take the position of like, here's a hard and fast rule, right? Because God knows the last thing we want to see with that speech is like some manosphere answer, a red pill answer, right? So, tell you what, if I get another taker on one of these questions, I will answer the other one. So who wants to answer 3 or 4? And I will take the other question. Go ahead, man.
Hello. I'm gonna answer number 4. What makes anime superior to other forms of storytelling? For me, I think it's just the fluidity, the art. You know, One Piece is an example. I'm pretty sure everyone here has watched One Piece. Berserk. There's dark storytelling. There's funny storytelling. There's a wide variety, if I can say that. That's my point.
Yep. The thing is, when you have over 1,000 episodes, you can kind of tell any story within that amount of time. So I think One Piece, it's just because of the fact that an anime can literally stretch from 1999 to 2020, I don't know when Oda's going to end it, right? Really gives you the indication that, yeah, anime can do anything, because I don't know any live action show that can go that long, because people age. Anime characters don't have to. But I think that's probably the biggest thing here. So, that means y'all want to know what anime I think defines our community right now, huh? Yeah. You'll notice, like, our community has gotten a lot weirder in the past few years. We've gotten more normie and weirder at the same time, right? Somehow it's like, okay, people are just really, really out there, but at the same time it's like, oh, are you watching this live action show that has nothing to do with anime and I'm sitting in front of my computer for 18 hours and I don't know why? Yeah, that's why Dandadan is probably the anime that represents us, right? Because if anything represents how weird anime fans actually are, it's Dandadan. First of all, the plot threads in Dandadan are so random and so sporadic, like there's no way that Dandadan doesn't represent who we are because our thought patterns are so scattered. It's like, have you ever just heard a weeb say a random thought out loud? Like, you're just like, how did you even, where did that come from, right? Because you can point to other anime like that are almost equally as random, like maybe Call of the Night comes to mind, for example. But Dandadan just hits different because not only is its plot thread random, you'll ever listen to that Fire soundtrack for the opening? Like, that song itself is the randomness that we feel every single day. We are totally neurodivergent brained in the anime community that it has to be Dandadan above anything that represents us right now. What's up, guys?
What about Mashal? Mashal is, the opening is by the same people. It's just as sporadic.
It is just as sporadic, but the problem is Mashal is random. Dandadan is just the epitome of randomness. Yeah. So I would say that's what defines our 2025 anime community above all else. What's up?
It covers so much of the spectrum of all of us weebs. We have the open, outspoken in Jinji who are just completely out there that don't care. They have the Okuras who are extremely passionate and tend to keep to themselves. Weird. They have the defensive, like trying to be powerful, internal struggle people in Momo, and then you have people who are Gigi's just wild and outspoken themselves. And then I cannot remember.
And then you have Kita.
We haven't gotten there yet. We will. But we also the pink hair who is desperately in love with the entire community is not a part of it in any sense of the word, but absolutely loves it. And of course, all of the adults look at these group of 4 kids and think, "Good Lord, what in the world?"
Which, believe me, as the old person in the room most of the time, that's kind of how we look at every situation with y'all in general. But yeah, exactly, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. It's just, it represents that expressiveness that really, really hits home for like, you don't know what's going to happen next and you love it, right? And that's the best thing about that current hand.
that wraps up our panel for today. If you have any questions or feedback for me, you can hit me up on Discord or Instagram at hideaju_suffering. Currently, those are the only two social medias that I have. I'm sorry, I won't make you pay for a premium snap. Like, I'm not that type of influencer, right? But I'm usually pretty open with communications. If you have any feedback, go ahead and shoot me a follow, send me a request, do whatever you need to do. But thank you guys so much for coming out on this Saturday morning. Enjoy your stay in Japan. This is one of the best times in the world, so.